Thank you for the click. My name is Luxeley, and on the day before tomorrow, I'm going to talk about Brian Holinka back at Blizzard for part 2. The sequel no one asked for, the sequel no one wanted. Just when I thought Baffled by Azerite hit rock bottom, I felt my sinker just hit the bottom. I was like fishing for some sort of optimism. I felt the sinker on the line hitting the bottom, and I thought things would slowly get better. Blizzard all of a sudden grabs a shovel, starts digging, and brings Brian Holinka back in for some more big-time damage. Did Blizzard just double down on stupid? Is tossing napalm and gasoline on a bonfire a good way to put the fire out? Let's take a closer look at this move. I find it very interesting, and we could infer many things here. Let's get to it. First, Holinka's title. Lead Combat Designer is different from his previous title, which is Lead UCFUP for PvP. In Part 2 of the sequel, Holinka will be responsible for all combat-related systems. I have that in quotes, keep that in mind, including class design and PvP content. What does this mean? Reading between the lines, I have a few ideas and or predictions here. Everything I'm about to infer from this recent move to bring Holinka back is what I'd call reasonable speculation. And what that is simply taking into account how Blizzard operates and putting 2 and 2 together here and simply doing the math and having a business perspective on the whole field of view. Keywords in Holinka's job description. All combat-related systems dredges up a few interesting questions that need to be asked. Is there a new combat system in the works for a patch down the road, or more likely in the next Xpac? What do you guys think? I've heard many people complain about the antiquated tab targeting combat system in WoW for years. Not a couple of days, a couple of months, for years. Going back even into Mr. Pandaria, people were complaining about the combat system. One thing WoW desperately needs right here and now is something new and exciting. And a new raid isn't going to do it. I saw Preach do a video. I have a lot of respect for Preach. Good raid incoming. We don't need a good raid. We need a good fucking game. Let me say something else. The classes revamped, something that certainly would help, but we need something exciting, something different. In the words of 007, things need to be shaken up, not stirred. If a new combat system is introduced into WoW, it greatly affects gameplay across the board, meaning leveling is 100% different, rating is different, and PvP is different. And when you throw that word out there 3 times different, that means you might bring some people back to check it out. And they just might like it, because one of their biggest complaints about World of Warcraft is the antiquated combat system, and something new might be very exciting. Now, the cynic in me thinks maybe Blizzard made the GCD change to make the combat system worse, so the next combat system would look better, feel better, and play better, rather than just a little bit better. It'll be a lot better. No, I'm just joking. Sounds crazy, but I do mean that. But sometimes companies do make things worse on purpose, so they appear to be a lot better going forward. Changing the combat system in the game is a terrific way of revitalizing older content and features as well as new ones going forward. So that's the first thing we could infer. The second, I know a lot of people believe Blizzard doesn't listen to the players. I've often said they do listen, but they don't listen to the right players. Here's a fact. If someone is going to criticize or complain about World of Warcraft or bitch about it, big difference here. If someone is complaining about it and they still play the game, or they don't play the game. And an even bigger difference is if they bitch and complain about it and they offer a potential solution, even if it's a bad one. Big difference. Now, there have been some recent changes at Blizzard. One of the more notable changes, which I think led to Holinka coming back, Alan Brack took over Mike Morheim's old position. Morheim retired. And I do think the return of Holinka demonstrates Blizzard is looking to implement change. There's no doubt about it. Now, the change may be slow, like a snail with 2 broken legs, or actually snails have more legs, but you get the point. Nonetheless, we're going to see some change. Change for the better? Who knows? Change for the worst? I'll probably move my chips on that and bet on that. One thing for certain, though, Blizzard places a lot of value and trust in Holinka, more so than the players do, at least I believe. And if you don't believe me, you can take a look at the Reddit thread, link in the description. There's a lot of love for Holinka in that thread. People don't like him. Now, the Arena Forum's a little bit different story. They love Holinka because Holinka represents the last 3 seasons of MoP, and they basically have the memory of a fucking 5-year-old, and they don't remember anything that happened in WoD or Legion for that matter. So The fact is, they love Holinka because they think he's going to bring back the End of Mop. And if the End of Mop was so good, why didn't Blizzard recognize it and continue it? That is still on Holinka's watch. When you do something well and then you stop doing it, you're just as incompetent as if you never did it. I'm sorry, but that's just the reality. And let's also talk about reality. Being 100% honest here, Blizzard knows a hell of a lot more about Holinka and what he can and can't do, more so than the players, more so than I do. When it comes to company men, some are good at new ideas, some are good at fixing existing problems, and some are good at executing the ideas, good ideas of other people, and making things happen. Now, I don't believe Holinka is the former of the three, but there is a reasonable possibility he could be one of the latter two. Am I being optimistic? Yes. The reality is, this is the hand we're dealt. Not much we can do except hope for the best and simply unsub if things get worse. I certainly mean the latter because I'm fed up with Blizzard tossing band-aids on headaches and making dumb excuses. The one thing I want to point out, though, there were two separate devs. One did class design, another one did something called PvP. Holinka's going to have that condensed role. So he's going to have more control, and we're going to really see what this guy is made of. Which brings me to my third point. The previous dev in charge of class design, Celeste Tablet, moved on to another project within Blizzard during the summer of 2017. Same summer that Holinka moved on to that same project. Holinka did it, I believe, in June. Celeste Tablet did it in either July or August. Now, as far as I know, Blizzard didn't fill a position. It's a rather important decision, being the dev in charge of class design. Now, this could explain the lack of direction, vision, and purpose we've experienced with class design and BFA. If there is no general in charge, it's very difficult to lead the charge. Now, after stripping away artifacts and legendaries, the core design of every single class in the game felt less than, diluted, and unfinished. And Azerite armor is not filling in the missing gaps. Not even close. And even with the changes that Blizzard plans going forward, patch 8.1, 8.2, which they've yet to announce, it's a step in the right direction, but it's a baby step, and it's not one giant step for mankind. Taking away artifacts truly felt, like another round of ability pruning. I seriously doubt we're going to see major changes in class design in the upcoming BFA patches, but I do think we'll see a back to the drawing board approach in the next Xpac with regard to class design. Now, the fourth point is large-scale PvP, something that Holinka has experience doing, and I also do believe that we're going to see changes to PvP that are going to be in the works. Holinka is most known for Asheram. More on that debacle in a few minutes. He does possess experience with large-scale PvP, and if you look at the majority of upcoming MMOs in 2019, the majority of them sport large-scale PvP, siege type of PvP, 100 versus 100. It's not unreasonable to speculate Holinka is coming back to WoW to develop large-scale PvP. In BFA, Blizzard introduced Epic BGs, also known as 40-man BGs. Ian Has a Clueless said Blizzard plans to expand on Epic BGs, introduce more of them into the game, and make them more engaging. This could possibly include a revamp and refit of Wintergrass, Tol Barad, even Asheran, or maybe even they'll turn one of the planned warfronts into a large-scale siege-type PvP, 100 versus 100, something reflective of true war. Then again, I might have just dozed off and started dreaming because I don't believe the game engine in its current state can handle it. And once again, I bring it back to the point, maybe that's why they brought Holinka back, to alter the game engine to make that large-scale PvP work. Point number 5, and this is my final point before we really blast Holinka. Blizzard diluted the dev talent on WoW way too much. Over the past 5 years, many original WoW devs or seasoned devs either moved on to other projects within Blizzard, like Tom Chilton and Jeff Kaplan moved on to other, or they moved on to other companies like Greg Street, or they retired like Chris Metzen and most recently Michael Morheim. As a result, there is a lack of passion and vision for WoW at the top. Blizzard does kind of listen to what the fans want to be put into the game. However, they don't listen to the fans when it comes to something like upping the ante on RNG. I dare you people to go out there and find just one forum post, one forum thread that says, hey, Blizzard, we really need to have more RNG in the game. If you find it, good for you, because that's like finding a goddamn unicorn hiding in the jungles of Africa. Love him or hate him, Holinka does possess a passion for the game and is a highly experienced dev. Is he talented? I don't honestly know. I think he did get a little bit of a bum rap, but I also think that he didn't really fight for what he really thought was good about the game. Hence, why good mob PvP at the end did not continue in WoD. Does he possess a vision for the game? I honestly don't know. But here's what I do know about Brian Holinka. Holinka took over the responsibility of WoW PvP in the middle of MOP. I vividly remember the Q&A where Greg Street passed the baton to Brian Holinka. They were doing IOC with Swifty and Hotted doing an interview, and Swifty asked the all-important question, will they implement aerial PvP combat into the game? These are the people that Blizzard generally will listen to if they're going to listen to someone. And his key question is, will they put aerial combat into PvP? You could say maybe Swifty's making a joke. From my experience, Swifty doesn't really have a sense of humor, so I don't think he was making a joke. Now, MoP PvP, as far as class design, arguably offered some of the best PvP seasons, particularly Tyrannical, Grievous, and Prideful. All classes felt viable, and class balance, it felt reasonable. It wasn't optimum, it wasn't very good, it was reasonable. This is the common sentiment that I've seen on the official forums, the MMO forums, and most importantly, the comments section in the class first impression series I did during the BFA beta. When people started talking about class design, they reminisced about Mist of Pandaria. I think that's where really key class design was implemented the right way. Now, Holinka is partly, if not mostly, responsible for this overall positive PvP experience. That's one of the good things that Brian Holinka did. On the flip side, and for those of you that don't know what the flip side means, that means it used to be something called vinyl records, and the really good song would be on side A, and then the flip side, side B, would be a song nobody really cared about, such as Azeroth. Billed his old school AV. During the Warlords of Drain All the Fun beta, Azeroth turned out to be a huge fustercluck. Want to blame high expectations? Okay, that's a very fair and reasonable point. But remember, and do not forget, the pointless side games proved to be a bit childish and boring. Faction imbalance led to insanely long queues of close to 2 hours. And the technology required for Azeroth to be successful as a feature in Warlords of Drain All the Fun proved not to be up to the task. After 2 years of tweaking and fixing Azeroth, Blizzard finally got it right, or as close to right as possible. But the damage has already been done, the trust was already lost, and no one wanted to give Azeroth a fair shot. WoD didn't represent the most balanced PvP, but it arguably represented a pretty fair version of it, save Legion. And speaking of Legion PvP, this is where, honestly, Holinka might have gotten a bum deal. In hindsight now, I can honestly say that, and I honestly believe that. If normalized gear and templates had been someone's idea rather than a necessity, and I'll explain in greater detail what I mean by that in a minute. If templates were truly an idea, something they really wanted to do, go in that direction, I strongly believe we'd see more of them in Baffled by Azerite. This means Blizzard forced the change simply because they couldn't balance PvP effectively with the addition of artifacts. Artifacts plus gear progression in Legion would have meant a bigger disaster than we already experienced in Legion PvP. In short, it would have been like what World PvP was in Legion if you were geared to the teeth and fighting a new level 110. And from what I understand, Holinka is the dev who did fight to add PvP talents into the game. Certainly a good addition. Now, what does all this mean? Because I'm kind of dancing some positive feedback about Holinka coming back and some negative feedback. Holinka is largely responsible for one really good thing in WoW, the last 3 PvP seasons in MoP, and one really bad thing in WoW, Azeroth. I honestly don't have a lot of confidence in Holinka, if any at all. Maybe if you gave me a few beers, I'd be very confident in the guy, but I'm just not. But I'll keep an open mind and give the man a shot, because I did kind of brush on this point that up until now, class design and combat systems were 2 different devs. Now it's one guy, so he's going to have full control. And he's going to be able to do a lot more. It's not like he's getting handed the baton of what the class design guy did and then trying to implement it into PvP. His vision is going to be the vision of the game. And on that note, I want to give the guy a fair shot. It's the hand we're dealt, people. And if things get worse, especially on the PvP side of the game, I'm done with producing WoW videos, and I'll definitely move on to something else and hope the next Xpac doesn't suck. The bottom line here, Blizzard lost touch with what the fans crave and enjoy in WoW. Legion proved to be a very, very good Xpac on the PvE side of things, not so good on the PvP side, though. There's a lack of passion and vision in most of what Blizzard does, particularly with regard to Warlords of Draenor the Fun and Baffled by Azerite. And to be 100% honest, this doesn't bode well for WoW Classic. This is going to piss a lot of people off, but why not? That's why I'm here, people. I strongly believe the talent within the Blizzard devs has been greatly diluted, and they'll screw up an orgasm if they could. They're just completely lost. I mean, 80 to 90% of the original devs from World of Warcraft are gone. What makes you think that they're going to replicate that experience? Especially when Blizzard's whole philosophy changed the moment they merged with Activision. After Activision, it was money before fun. Prior to Activision, it was fun before money. And I got news for you. WoW Classic is going to be money before fun. Trust me on this. It's not something I know people want to hear, but I know Blizzard pretty well, and I think that that's the direction they're going to go. Now, here's the perfect analogy. It's like going to your favorite restaurant and ordering chicken soup. Now, I know nobody orders chicken soup at a restaurant. Just bear with me. Every time you order chicken soup, the waiter brings you a soup with a couple of flies in it. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Sooner or later, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to order something different. In other words, do something exciting and different in WoW, like pet battles. Or you're going to go to another restaurant. Because if things aren't fun anymore, it's going to be like, no soup for you. Yes, that's a Seinfeld reference. Because every time I see these new Q&As that Ian Has a Clueless does with lore, I kind of hear the Seinfeld music in the background, and I really can't take him seriously anymore. And that's not a good thing. This is Luxeley, thanking you for listening and bearing with me as I talk about Holinka. When Holinka was initially let go, I was excited. I started singing the song Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. Well, the witch is back. And I got no choice but to play the hand I'm dealt. Let's see where it goes. But I'll be very quick to quit the game because I'm fed up. Whatever it is by you, whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, make it epic.
My question, okay, I got my question. One of these questions is from social media, but this is a question that's dear to my heart. It says, will there be mounted combat or aerial combat in WoW? I get dismounted all the time.